It's actually 3 days sooner than it normally is, July 10th. That changed largely in part because of DeAndre Jordan's flip-flop. Poor Mark Cuban and Dirk Nowitzki once again. When Jordan had announced that he was going to sign with the Mavericks, had second thoughts, reneged on that verbal agreement. Instead, re-signed with the Clippers. Kind of put the Mavericks in a bad spot. Kind of was an embarrassing moment, for the NBA. So they're hoping that this 3 days less of the moratorium period at least makes it less likely. And, it's something that rarely ever happens. The only other instance I could really think of was, I don't even know what year it was, 2004 maybe, close to a decade ago, when Carlos Boozer apparently had some type of verbal agreement. He was going to stay with the Cavaliers, instead sign with the Utah Jazz. That's really the only other instance, kind of similar to DeAndre Jordan. So, there's a 99.999% chance that, when these guys say they're going to sign with a certain team, they do. So I wouldn't worry much about it. As I mentioned, after the commercial break, I'm going to talk more about NBA free agency. If you could see the name of this episode, you could have somewhat of an idea what I'm going to talk about. I'll be right back after this short, brief commercial break.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Hello, this is the intrepid traveler, Paul London. Good journey, y'all. When you're ready to whip your rock out, do it with Coach Kev at Damage 365 Radio.
Esposito's Pizza and Pasta. Check us out at one of our fine locations, 930 Route 34 in Matawan, New Jersey, or 233 East Main Street in Manasquan, New Jersey. From pizza and salads to pasta and buffalo wings, we have something to suit every member of your family. Whether you're seeking to take out, delivery, or just want to dine in, let us do the dishes. We would be more than happy to take care of your next meal. Our courteous and friendly restaurant staff is here to meet and exceed all your expectations. We promise an enjoyable experience each and every time we serve you. Try our award-winning Sesame Seed Crust Pizza, the recent winner of first place in the Las Vegas Pizza Open in the Artisans Division. Visit us online at sesameseedpizza.com for store hours, menus, and phone numbers, or just stop by one of our two great locations. You'll be glad you did. Esposito's Pizza and Pasta, so close to eating at Mom's, but without all the yelling.
You're listening to Damage 365 Radio, and this is ECW Original, the Angry Amish Warrior Roadkill.
What's up, everybody? This is Coach Kev of the Damage 365 Radio Network. I want to talk to you about one of our sponsors, the Funkenstein Wrestling Superstore. That's right, you heard it. They're in Englishtown Flea Market in the Green Building, booth number 35. They have everything for your wrestling collectible needs. Check them out. They got figures, DVDs, cards, t-shirts, and even tickets to local independent wrestling circuits. They have that and so much more. Look, sitting here listening to me talk about it does not do it justice. Go.
WWE superstar The Patriot, and you're listening to Damage 365 Radio. Do not touch that dial. USA, USA, USA.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Welcome back after that short commercial break from Damage 365 and our sponsors. Let's get into another one of my top 10 lists. If you've been an avid listener, you've surely noticed that I've done a lot of these, and this one, was inspired by these first 3 days of NBA free agency, where, some of these contracts just seem absolutely absurd when you see the dollar amounts. I could think, back in about 2005, as a Knicks fan, when everyone was absolutely shocked that the Knicks gave Jerome James, I believe, a 6-year, $36 million deal. Just seemed crazy. Really had done nothing in his NBA career, but he had a good playoff series against the Sacramento Kings, and, that was enough for Isaiah Thomas to pay him $6 million a year, which at the time definitely seemed like a ludicrous contract for him. Compared to now, though, the contracts that have been given out through his first 3 free agent days, nobody would have even noticed. That wouldn't have been a blip on the radar. Jerome James getting $6 million a year, by the way, probably didn't even score 100 points in his Knicks career. But, let's look at some of the biggest WTF contracts that have been handed out during these first 3 days of free agency. I'm sure there will be more, that completely shock people as free agency rolls along. But, so far, these are my top 10, and there's a bunch of guys I could have included that didn't quite make the list. Almost every contract really has been a WTF contract so far. Really, the only contract that didn't seem that way to me was Al Jefferson, 3 years, $30 million to the Indiana Pacers. I know Jefferson, had somewhat of a disappointing down year with the Hornets last season as he dealt with a few injuries. But, this is still a solid center, rebounder, post player. Definitely seemed like a steal, at least compared to these other contracts by the Pacers, who, by the way, including trading for Thaddeus Young, Jeff Teague, having Paul George, and, rumor is they might be looking at Rudy Gay in a trade. This is a team that's definitely on the rise. Paul George getting a lot of help. But we're not here to talk about that right now. Let's get into the top 10 biggest WTF contracts. Starting at number 10, Harrison Barnes. Mavericks struck out on Mike Conley and Hassan Whiteside, have signed Harrison Barnes to an offer sheet, 4 years, $95 million, so almost $24 million this season. Once he could officially sign on July 7th, the Warriors will have till July 10th to match. They've given every indication that they will match any offer for Harrison Barnes as long as Kevin Durant does not sign with the team, which is looking more and more likely to be the case. Harrison Barnes, good young player. He's still just 24 years old. Stats-wise, just does not look like a player that should be making $24 million. 11.7 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, and 1.8 assists last season, and 30-plus minutes per game. Now, I understand, he's got Klay Thompson, he's got Steph Curry. Put him on a different team, he'd probably have a bigger role and, could improve on those statistics. But he definitely fell apart, especially in that NBA Finals. He was absolutely horrid as, the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. Cavaliers won the NBA championship. Just seeing that, you got to wonder if, he could be better than, a third or fourth option on, a very good team. He definitely hasn't shown the capability of being a first option or maybe even a second option. To me, it's just way too much money. Mavericks are somewhat getting desperate. The Warriors, though, are worried about breaking up a nucleus that had the best record in NBA history. So it's likely that he stays with the Warriors. $24 million a year, though, quite a bit. Harrison Barnes, number 10 on the list. Number 9 on the list is Evan Turner. Got a 4-year, $70 million contract from the Portland Trail Blazers. Do the math, $17.5 million this season. Now, Evan Turner definitely had an important role for, surprising Celtics team last season. Finished, I want to say, 3rd in 6th Man of the Year voting. In 28 minutes per game, 10.5 points, 4.9 rebounds, 4.4 assists. He could do the ball handling. He could do, he's a good defensive player. His problem is, though, in a league where three-point shooting is becoming more and more important, at the small forward position, he just does not provide any type of three-point shooting. Last season, shot 24.1% from downtown. The season before that, 27.7%. So he's not a guy that's going to extend the defense at all. They'll dare him to shoot. Still a relatively young player, turning 28 on October 27th. I see him somewhat as a poor man's Nicholas Batum. Of course, the Trailblazers traded Nicholas Batum, and he just got a max deal from the Hornets. Again, huge contract. Probably could have made this list, just missed, though. But anyhow, Batum could hit the 3, though. Turner just has not shown the ability to. Had been seen mostly as a disappointment throughout his career, especially since he was a 2nd overall pick out of Ohio State in either 2010 or 11 by the 76ers. Evan Turner, number 9 on the list. Number 8, biggest WTF contract so far. One that was signed not too long ago, announced. Tyler Johnson of the Miami Heat signed a 4-year, $50 million contract with the Brooklyn Nets. Johnson is a restricted free agent, meaning that when he can sign the deal on July 7th, the Heat will have until July 10th to decide whether they want to match. Now, he definitely played a strong role when he did play. Compared to what some of these other guys are getting, $12.5 million isn't horrid. What makes it hard is the Nets are really making it hard for the Heat to match, because in the last 2 seasons he has player options for $18 million and $19 million each season. In the NBA, they like to call that the poison pill contract. To give $37 million in 2 seasons to Tyler Johnson, a guy who was undrafted. He's only played in 68 NBA games in 2 seasons. Shoulder injury limited him to 32 games last season. Averaged 8.7 points, 3 rebounds, 2.2 assists in 24 minutes per game. It's definitely a solid role player, but to give Tyler Johnson $37 million over 2 years just seems, absolutely unheard of. We will see if the Heat will match. They'll have 3 days to do so after the Nets can sign him on July 7th. Number 7, biggest WTF contracts, goes to Jan Mahimi, formerly of the Indiana Pacers, signed with the Washington Wizards, 4 years, $64 million contract. Mahimi definitely had a career season last year with the Pacers, averaging 9.3 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 1.4 blocks. 58.9% field goal percentage and 25